Okay, so I'm glad everybody's here. We're just going to do it like this because we only actually have till 6. So, but thank you for coming. Thank you for being an audience. This is Mark Melville. He is running for sheriff. He is actually on the ballot to run for sheriff. If he had not decided to, and actually the truth is he's a patrolman from down the coast. You work the Half Moon Bay?
Yes, I do.
And how did you get that position in Half Moon Bay?
How did I get it?
In other words, I heard that you had tried to bring up the subject of sexual
I did not.
Prior to?
No, I did not. I did not. So,
okay.
So what happened is that we have a rule that if you've been in a position for longer than 5 years, you're subject to being transferred.
Right.
So when I went to the sheriff to tell him that I was running against him, I asked him, I said, I was on the transfer list and then it got canceled. I said, so what happened? And he says, we have no plans on moving you. So they decided they wanted to keep me on what we call the South Coast from Half Moon Bay to Santa Cruz County.
So would you say that was almost retaliatory?
I'm not going to say it was retaliatory. It was probably smart politics on his part, only because he keeps me away from what I call the other side of the hill.
The other side of the hill.
And talking to various people.
Yeah, for sure.
So
we got another.
That was strategically
we do have an other side of the hill issue here.
We do. Anything on the other side of the skyline is the other side.
That's right. We're on the coast, and it's almost like being a kind of an outpost of San Mateo County, don't you think?
Well, it doesn't get the same services, in my opinion, that the other side of the hill gets.
Well, the first time I saw you, it was at the Democratic debate, and you mentioned that your plan is to administer from the bottom up, correct?
That's correct. I want everybody in the organization to have the ability to have input on what we do it, how we do it, why we do it. It should not just come from the top down.
Right.
And I think my methodology that I've explained in predictive policing is it involves everybody's input.
Cool.
So
sounds a little like democracy.
Well, you want everybody to be a part. You want everybody to give you 110%.
Right. Exactly.
Because it's for the organization.
Right.
And I've told people it's not about Mark Melville being the sheriff.
Right.
It's about how we as an organization function.
Right.
So I've gone through, as I said, that we're going to go through every different division that we have in the sheriff's office, and we're going to put the right people in the right place to get the job done. And if they're given 110%, they're given 110%, the organization gets 110%.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm after.
Exactly.
So I want everybody to have a say in what we do and how we do it.
I think that's fantastic. I've been saying that for a long time. Actually, I've been going to protests for a long time, and I often talk to the police officers about how it's being policed, and they often object to how it's being policed as Americans.
Right.
And so I've often thought, from the top up, not, I remember one time I asked a police officer, why is this still blocked off when this protest has been over for so long? And he said, because the guys at the top hadn't gotten back to them yet. So we had elderly people walking 8 blocks to get back to their car, and when I say elderly people, I'm talking about myself. 8 blocks to get to my car rather than 2 blocks, because the higher-ups were just not on the street. And I said to him, people on the street should be making the decisions, and he agreed with me. But getting back to this, did you see this? Are you aware of the Bolanos issue? What do you think of the Bolanos issue, and are you going to sign this?
Well, we'll probably sign a different version of this, but it is correctly stated that, as I've told plenty of media folks, that I did watch the 3-minute presentation that Mark Tapala did before the Board of Supervisors that clearly identified that the sheriff and the undersheriff were inside that facility. So, as I said, he is not going to stand before the board and lie. So that only leaves me one conclusion, is that Sheriff Bolanos now is not being truthful.
Right.
So,
which is another
and, you know, that's,
layer to kind of the betrayal of trust.
well, it is definitely a betrayal of trust, because as the chief law enforcement officer of the county, your integrity has to be impeccable.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm seeing that is not happening right now.
Exactly.
And he still continues to ignore
Exactly.
the questions related to
Exactly.
this incident.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm proud of you for running.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm having a great time. I've met great people. Everybody I've talked to has just really been great to me.
Right.
They understand why I'm running. They understand I've been doing this for 43 years.
Right.
I've been in public service.
Right. You're a cop, basically.
Well, and I thank, like I said, I thank God every day for giving me the talent and the skills to serve His people.
That's right.
And that's what it's
Yeah.
about. It's us serving the people. And that's
Wow.
what
Could
we're
you
all about.
imagine that?
Well, that's
That
what
would
we're here
be
to do.
very novel at this point, 2018.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, I just wanted to touch base real quick because I have my artwork up here. The cops are, the situation with the racial divide and the situation with the cops is growing into a heated situation, partially because the media is, I think, specifically kind of highlighting the worst part of what's happening in this country in that regard.
I'm going to be bold and say I think law enforcement is a part of that.
Yes.
Because I've said for a long time that we in law enforcement do a horrible job telling the public what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. And we've got to be more transparent.
Definitely.
And it becomes so obvious that if we've made a mistake, then we have to own up to it. Say we've made a mistake, and
whoa! Could you say that? What?
If we made a mistake, we need to come out and say we made a mistake.
Oh my goodness!
I
that
think
would
that's,
be wonderful.
we get back to the honesty with the people we're here to serve.
That's right.
We're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. But we can fix them. We can do more training. There's a lot of things we can do, but we need to keep the public up to date as to what we're doing, so that they know.
Yeah.
And don't sit there and just hide behind what I call the badge or behind the golden doors. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Be upfront. Be honest.
Hello. Thank
And
you.
tell them, yeah, we made a mistake. We're going to fix it. It took. I look at Philadelphia. Their chief came out after how many days to say, hey, our officers made a mistake. But he admitted that we hadn't trained them in that kind of situation. They're just kind of just doing bookwork.
Right.
Well, life is more than just bookwork.
Exactly.
You know, you really got to sit down and evaluate, what do you really have here? And how could that situation be averted? And, or say, hey, you know, explain to them, the coffee company here doesn't, if you're not buying anything, their policy is that you move along.
Right.
I mean, it could have been handled so many different ways, but I don't want to second guess them. I wasn't there. But I look for the alternative.
It does seem like...
I just look for the alternative.
What do they call it? Excessive force.
I don't know. I don't think excessive force was used. It was, you have to leave, and the way that they made it happen. I don't think it was excessive force, but in the manner that it was handled, that, yeah, it could have been handled a little.
Well, I'll take whatever I can get. I mean, at this point, we have to, you know, try some change.
Absolutely.
Right? Because doing the same thing over and over again is, right? And expecting a different result is...
And it starts at the top.
Insanity.
You know, the role model at the top and the expectations has got to be clearly identified.
Yes.
Show that everybody knows, okay, this is what's being asked of us, required of us. And again, along with their input.
Exactly.
But, and we want to be successful.
Well, I don't know if I covered all the questions. If anybody else has a question or anything I missed from Mr. Stodner.
Can you just review the Bolanos issue for the camera?
I think he's not the best guy to do that.
No? Okay.
Right?
Well, I wasn't here. I wasn't working for the sheriff's office when it went down.
Yeah.
But my frustration is that when Mr. DePaula made his presentation to the Board of Supervisors, he clearly outlined exactly where the sheriff and Mr. Bolanos were at the time. As I said, he's not going to stand before the Board of Supervisors and lie. Carlos has decided he has not wanted to, nor will he address the issue. So, that's my frustration.
But the information is on the internet.
It's all
That's
there.
right.
It's
Yeah.
all the information you could ever want is there,
Well, you said that he was there. Where was there?
inside the facility.
What facility? What was the
The
facility?
brothel.
It was an illegal
It
brothel
was an illegal brothel with underage minor girls.
Bolanos.
that were
was it?
trafficked, right?
And the previous sheriff.
And the previous sheriff, yeah. Two sheriffs. It was actually a police
Well, they were there.
training.
No, they were
Right?
there for an
They were
event.
They were at the brothel training
No,
for.
Don't
Don't
make
don't-
this silly.
Yeah, don't confuse that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that brothel was there for human trafficking. Both the FBI and Las Vegas Metro Police were conducting a joint investigation.
And they were
When
children.
When they made the raid, they were both inside.
And this is in Nevada and Las Vegas.
Correct.
In 2007.
What's wrong with the FBI? I mean, how do these people get away with that?
You've answered the question. That answers the question right there.
Yeah, you know, that's, yeah, a lot of people have asked that question, why were they not arrested?
Right.
I don't know, I wasn't there. They were identified as being there,
They were detained,
they were detained,
they were handcuffed,
and then released.
but they were not arrested.
Why have sheriffs been appointed as opposed to elected since what, 1993, I think?
Yeah, 1993 was the last true election. What happened was Sheriff Don Horsley won that election. He stayed until 2006. Nobody ran against him, okay? So he went to the Board of Supervisors and asked them to appoint his undersheriff to fill out his term. That was Greg Munks. 2010 comes along, nobody ran against him. So in 2014, he went through a little election debacle with one of our deputies, Juan Lopez. And in 2016, he stepped down and asked the Board of Supervisors to appoint his undersheriff, Carlos Bolanos. So that's why you haven't been able to elect one in 25 years. So that was my frustration, and I said, no, that's not right. The people of San Mateo County have the opportunity to elect a sheriff, and they will get that opportunity this year.
This year. And what about, yes, thank you. What about, why didn't that election occur in 2014?
Well, in 2014, Deputy Lopez did not get all this paperwork
Okay.
submitted in a timely manner, so he had to go on as a write-in candidate.
Okay.
And that's generally not very successful, generally.
Not all the time, though. 'Cause
No.
write-in candidates are qualified candidates. You'll find a list of them at the back of your ballot. And they're qualified candidates, and if you write them in, and if enough people write them in, they can get elected. As a matter of fact, there is somebody else running for sheriff, two of you, and you're both seem very supportive of each other, that you really just want to get Bolanos not elected, basically, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. We both feel that the change is long overdue.
Change is long overdue.
They've handed down the position and handed down the
Yeah.
position. It's time for a fresh set of eyes, ears.
Okay, great. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so
Well,
much.
thanks for-
So, hello.
What channel?
This is Michael Stogner.
Yep.
He is the creator and, do you call it proprietor of the
I'm the
news?
co-owner
Co-owner.
of www.sanmataecountynews.com. And I own it with a young woman partner of mine. And we felt we were forced into our own news business. We're not news people, we're not journalists by trade or by education. But I felt with San Mateo County, I'm born and raised here. And then I lived here for up to 66 years, and then I just moved out recently, and I'm on my way back in. But I felt that the 7 papers that we received, or the 7 English printed papers, do not cover the real stories. And I never, for years, I couldn't figure it out, and I've now figured it out.
How did you figure out that?
Well, I figured it out by sending them stories, and they chose not to publish them. So we were the first media to publish that the district attorney in San Mateo County was being investigated by the Bar Association, State Bar.
I didn't know that.
And district attorney stopped communicating to me after that, because I'm sure his legal counsel told him, quit talking to Stockman.
The current DA?
Yeah, currently. And then before that, we wrote that the deputy district attorney, Melissa McCowan, was being charged by the California State Bar Court for the second time for 2 counts of dishonesty.
Wow.
Now, one of the things that I've been trying to do for San Mateo County for 19 years is to eliminate prosecutorial misconduct, which I call cowardly. I don't want public employees submitting false evidence, having witnesses testify falsely to get somebody convicted.
Right.
I just think that's disgusting.
I think we can all agree on that. Don't you think we can all
Right.
agree on that?
So also, I just wanted to
very
touch.
important.
I wanted to touch on something. Most residents of San Mateo County don't realize that the sheriff office, what Mr. Melville was just talking about, it belongs to you. It is your office to fill. And you asked a great question, like how come the appointments happen? Well, the last appointment, I am one of the few people that have called it because I was at that meeting. It was July 12, 2016, and what I witnessed was an illegal coup. The agenda item 7 was not for them to appoint anybody. It was
You're
for
kind of
them.
losing me.
Okay,
Let's just go over it one
Well,
more
let
time.
me just finish the statement, then I'll come back.
Okay.
So I'm saying that on July 12, 2016, the Board of Supervisors, 3 of them, did something illegal.
Really?
Yes, they appointed Carlos Bolanos when he never filled out an application to be appointed. And the reason is they never opened up the appointment process, which is where you say for the next 30 days, we're going to take applications. Mark Melville would have put his name in. And Don Horsley went ahead and led the charge after I asked him to personally recuse himself from even the subject matter because his son is employed by the Sheriff's Department. So that's a huge conflict of interest.
Right.
He should have just got up, left the room.
But instead of recusing, he actually...
He led the charge. He
Led
said,
the
I'm
charge.
prepared to nominate Carlos Bolanos today. And
Wow.
I just thought, and I looked around.
Were
and I
you
was
there?
surrounded. I was
You
there.
were there.
I was the only civilian that
Okay.
spoke on the subject matter.
What did you say?
Well, the subject matter that I was there for was choose either to appoint or to have an election. And I suggested an election because it's the people's office. It's not for the supervisors to fill.
So this is in the public record.
This is in the public record.
Good for you.
Plus, I've just said it again.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, and
because
it's-
people don't
It was
realize,
a criminal act.
if I could just highlight this, people don't realize that I go to the city council meetings.
Right.
I'm all by myself.
Right.
But it doesn't matter that they're not necessarily listening to us, because when you get up there and you speak it,
Right.
it's in the public record. At that point,
That's-
looking back.
That's correct.
Yes.
Well, and I
yes.
also went back to the following meeting and I reminded them
Oh,
that what they
good.
did was totally improper.
And that's in the public record
And that
as
is
well.
in the public
Okay,
record. So,
okay.
and the great news about reporting to some people that you've just committed a felony is they don't care in San Mateo County.
Oh, no.
No, it's like they always thank me, and Teresa Dyer knows, and they thank you.
That's right.
And you bring to their attention that so-and-so, and you give them an example. And what I started doing was I started handing them documents. And I said, I just want you to know, not only am I speaking publicly, but I'm handing you so that you cannot deny
Right,
that you
right.
have knowledge.
Right, good.
And I've been
Good for
doing
you.
this for years.
Great.
And so that's.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
so
doing
that's
that.
that's
It's
the way to do
amazing.
this.
We need people to do
So
this.
here's the other
Teresa
thing.
Dyer has been doing this for a long time.
We met 10 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And she's a hero.
Yeah.
And my son actually watched her
Yes.
many times and said that's why he's going to run for supervisor.
Oh,
so that she doesn't have to keep
wow.
coming over from Pacifica.
Thank you, Teresa.
So-
Well,
So-
Michael and I were both at the county supervisors meeting
Yeah.
the day that they implemented a citizens review panel
Oh, yeah, yeah,
ordinance,
yeah.
okay? I have it right here.
Total BS, right?
And it's been amended.
Right.
It was started in 2008, that's when we
Right,
met.
right.
And he wanted to get rid of Greg Munks, and I
Yep.
wanted to get rid of Jim
Right,
Fox,
right,
okay?
right.
And so they had a lot of feedback from the public, so they implemented this ordinance. Not just because him and I were there, but they were
Right.
against it.
Wow,
Right.
that's
And
great.
so,
One other thing, if I can just finish this
Yeah.
other topic though. So getting back to Operation Dollhouse in April 21st, 2007, when I first heard about it, it was around April 25th, 24th or 25th. And I didn't like what I heard. And then when I saw, I wanted to see a photograph of the home, the private residence. And so I contacted some private eye friends of mine that I work with, and I got my photo I was looking for. And I said, there is nothing massage parlor about this home. And what happened, and I can add this based on my research, that Carlos Bolanos was not only handcuffed, he was put into a vehicle and transported to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department for a minimum of 3 hours.
Wow.
He has never discussed that. No newspaper in San Mateo County has ever produced that one statement. So my question to him, through my news source business, is just one question. How many minutes were you detained? Because the next day, he went and called several news stations and started talking and producing the false story. We asked the limo driver to take us to a massage parlor. My God, how'd we know?
That's what he's saying.
And then we get to this house.
Yeah.
Well, and so I showed pictures of the house with a trailer in the back so that they could have more women have more sex on the property. Nothing about this home. The other part is this is not a house of prostitution. This is human trafficked children and women. That's what that was. And for him to continue with that story, and every newspaper to continue with the story, oh, they were prostitutes, and they were happy. And one FBI spokesperson even said, oh, they drove away in their own cars and they had their own passports. And I said, that's a fantastic story. Show me the video.
Yeah.
And the FBI has never allowed the video. And I've helped 10 citizens for 11 years go to the FBI, go to Las Vegas Metro, go to DOJ, in search of the last 3 hours of a 2-year staying. That's all we need. Because Carlos Bolanos...
And you can't get it?
No. And Carlos Bolanos refuses...
But because of the
to-
district attorney? Is it because of the district
Or
attorney?
at Las
Ours-
Vegas, most
Ours
likely.
or there?
Yours?
The one here? No.
It's probably Las Vegas.
Well, what happened there, and you'll see it on my website, and I published the emails. About a year later, I just did a Freedom of Information request. And I was curious who all communicated with my top 2 guys, 1 and 2. And it turned out I have emails from our 2 highest ranking district attorneys. And then I checked the dates, and they sent them out the day before, or the day I first heard of it, and they sent it out 4 hours before we ever saw anything in print. And they were emails of support and emails of encouragement. And
Before?
Yes, and emails to criticize the media. One of them says, don't let the modern day media get you down. This will be yesterday's news and irrelevant by tomorrow.
And this was from the district attorney?
Yes, and it's from the district attorney that we have right this very moment.
Who is up
Running-
for
Running
re-election.
unopposed.
And the plan with him, he's running unopposed, and I've heard from inside
Yeah.
that the plan is relatively soon after he gets elected, he's just gonna appoint.
Well, he's going to ask, again, the district attorney belongs to you, the residents.
What's the name again of the district
The
attorney?
district attorney currently is Steve Wagstaff.
Steve Wagstaff.
And I can produce the emails that he sent before anybody in San Mateo County even heard of any of the details. And it was a disgusting email in support. He said your 30 years of law enforcement is impeccable or some nonsense like that. The man just got caught where he was and even to this day refuses to admit it. And then the second step is the next day he went on a misinformation campaign, and I find that to be quite dishonest, and I think that by itself is reason to not elect him as sheriff.
And what do you, I'm gonna ask you, you went to the debate?
Yes.
There was a debate last week.
Yeah.
The League of Women Voters seem to purposely avoid
Every
this
question,
subject?
every question regarding, this subject was
So
off
do
limits.
they know? Are they
Of course they
aware?
know.
That is
How
so
could they
disappointing.
not be knowing in 11 years?
Why do you think there's such a collusion between so many political organizations, like the League of Women Voters?
I've been, all I can tell you is what I do know, and I can't speculate as why. I'll tell you what, we have a good example of 3 or 4 people ready to run and
That's
offer
right.
themselves for office,
Yeah.
and they completely disagree with 99% of the elected officials.
Right.
Mark Melville just mentioned about Mark DePaula's efforts. Mark DePaula and I have been working together for about 6 years, and he actually got on an airplane and flew to Las Vegas on his own dime, and to the chagrin of his wife. She didn't like us being together because Mark he's a go-getter. He just gets up and does it.
Yeah.
He spent 3 days.
He was supposed to come tonight.
He spent 3 days, thousands of dollars, and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, in the mail, thanks to another citizen who was doing the same kind of stuff, he gets a CD-ROM from the FBI.
So he has the.
Right, but
Yeah.
then not only does he have it, what he does is he sends an email to every single elected official in San Mateo County.
Jackie
stating-
Spear,
Everyone,
Senator Hill,
everyone,
Kevin Mullen.
everyone.
Okay.
Stating, please watch my 3-minute video and please withdraw your endorsement of Carlos Bolanos. Jerry Hill said, no, I will not watch it, and
Won't
I
even watch
don't
it.
want to see what's on the video. There's a
So that-
woman running for superintendent of schools. No, I do not want to watch it, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And I forget, there was a couple others, I'm keeping track of who they are, because that's really what we're up against. So they're aware of it, couldn't care less. And I think the part that nobody touches on, because they keep trying to make this into a silly story about, oh, got boys will be boys, prostitutes,
That's right.
da-da-da.
That's right.
If you just spend 30 seconds and think about what one of those women and girls went through
Right.
to get placed into that home that night, and then to find out that 2 of these old fat guys are the top law enforcement officers. See, they're not talking about any of that. So those humans are already devastated, they're already drugged up, they're prisoners, is what they are.
Terrible.
And so for our guys to just deny this and pretend, Carlos Bolanos just made a statement in the Palo Alto Daily Post that he's been suffering for 11 years, like somebody from I believe my son said, like a robbery. And I said, Carlos never got convicted. He hasn't spent 1 day in anything.
No.
And he makes about $750,000 a year.
Get out.
So what is the
Get out
statute of
nothing.
limitations?
Hello?
Statute of limitations?
Oh, yeah, that's all gone. The recourse you have today as a resident, just vote them out.
Vote them out. I mean, this is the
Just vote
beauty.
them out.
This is the beautiful
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You don't need to
Just vote them
have
out.
anything else
He needs to
happen
be jailed.
except for if you, listen, it's a people thing.
It is.
We can get this guy voted out, but we have to let people know. That's why we're doing this.
The real people, the people
The
that
people
don't even
who are
pay
voting.
attention to this stuff.
That's right. Most people aren't paying attention. Most people
You need
don't
to
know
come
who
to
their
the county
supervisors are.
supervisors and speak
Right.
up. You need to go to the county supervisors and speak up.
Well, they
actually,
have.
They're
we're-
well
we're
aware of
gonna-
this.
We're gonna fix that for you, Teresa.
They
So you
are
only have to
aware
go
of it, but the
once,
more
not
people
every
that
Jewish
speak up
kid for
in
8
front
years.
Yes,
of the
yes.
So
county
you also have 2 other
Okay,
great speakers
okay,
here.
we have 10
so-
minutes, so
okay.
thank you, and
Yeah, my
let's
pleasure.
give them a
Good
round
luck.
of applause,
Good luck.
everybody. Thank you so much. This is Christina
Yes,
Asmenia. She's running for
Congress,
Congress
against Jackie.
against
So
Jackie
on your
Spear.
ballot,
Yes.
so, please vote for me. But I think that, ahead of that, I'm not gonna plug myself, I realize, I've come to the conclusion after hearing this, that this sheriff contest, where there will be a sheriff, an elected sheriff on June 6th. This sounds to me like the most important contest on the ballot. I mean, I don't
I
think that
agree.
bridge strolls should happen either, but that's it. I mean, I'm the mother of a daughter. I don't want somebody that thinks, somebody to physically be in a brothel and somehow spin that, in such a way that it's okay. If you're you're a law enforcement officer and you are physically present in an institution like that, that is a tacit condonement of that practice, that institution, and that's the least you can say, right? I mean, who knows what else you can say, but let's just say legal about this, okay? That is a tacit condonement of what's going on. So I think that if there were another physical presence, I mean, how can I trust this guy
Exactly.
to not be present in some other,
Illegal activity.
illegal,
Exactly.
but be in that situation and be passive. Even if he was standing outside, just be passive. Did you see pictures? I saw your pictures of this.
Thank you.
Thank you for emailing that to me. It was very clearly not a massage parlor. There were no signs on the outside. It was a house.
Oh
It was
my
a
God.
bungalow house with lateral wood, beige wood slats. Very, very, not
It
kept.
didn't look like a massage parlor.
And with bars on the
Oh
doors.
my goodness.
So I just looked. We see Melville all the time. You can feel that he's a good guy,
Yes.
and this person is one of the top guys in our law enforcement. So this is the contest. I mean, I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks. I was going to spend the next couple of weeks calling people and asking them for their vote in the primary. But I'm going to call people. I'll
And
of
ask
course
them not to vote for Bolanos.
I'm going to call them and ask them for their vote anyway. But I'm going to tell them to vote for to vote for Melville. And what I'm telling people when I'm campaigning for myself is just tell 10 friends. Just call 10, go out, the ballots arrive on May 7th, call 10 friends and tell them.
Thank you.
And if
That's a great
if
idea.
the 10 friends
That is a great idea.
are moved by what you say, tell them to call 10 friends. And
That's
it'll go
right.
viral. And I'm
That's right.
Filipino, there are 45,000 voters in this community. I am going to try and spread this as much. I wish I had been alerted to this issue.
Right?
Or you know what I
Even
mean?
as a voter,
I
right?
had paid
Yes.
attention to this
Yes.
earlier because I'm scared now.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
I am scared.
I'm-
actually,
You're right.
if Bolanos wins,
That's right.
I mean, how would you feel having this person
That's right.
as your sheriff?
That's right. We have him as our sheriff now,
Yes.
right?
but-
This is the thing. We have the sheriff as our sheriff. We have the supervisor who appointed this sheriff as our supervisor right now. We have a senator who knows this information and has said nothing right now. And we also have a congresswoman who I also have affection for as a voter. But I am going to vote for you because Jackie Spear has clearly stated she does not want anything to do with this information. She doesn't even want to listen to the information.
I have to disagree with that, and I'm
Really?
running. Yes, I'm running against Jackie Spear, so I
Okay.
can hear it from the person that would benefit from
Thank
it.
you, though.
She has been opposed to Bolanos.
She has?
Yes, there was an article where in 2016 she and Anna Eshu asked if they could go through some sort of vetting process and interview
Oh,
candidates.
really?
So she's been on the right side of this, and we also don't know with the powers that be what they're doing behind closed doors. But I'm not going to go out there.
Well, thank you for
And
saying
say
that.
that. I mean, in all
I'm
fairness
actually
to
glad
Jack-
to hear that,
Yeah,
really.
vote for me if you want your taxes lowered. But that's just. But I don't think that I would pin this on her. So.
Okay.
So
Okay.
where
What
did
would you do if you were if you were in her place right now? If you were serving as Congresswoman
Yeah.
and you got this information?
Well, look,
What would you do?
She is probably. I'm gonna. She knows. She seems to me like she is, embedded in the corridors of power.
Right.
And she has probably been trying to pull strings, behind closed doors and influence this. But it seems to me that she's on the right side. So
Would you do anything different?
I don't know how much better I could do it, but I don't know what her impediments are. So I can't
She
answer that
hasn't
with a lot
endorsed
of.
him, has she?
She has not endorsed him.
She's not endorsed
And
him.
the
Okay.
Democratic Party has not endorsed Bolanos,
Okay, well, that's
which
good
is
to
a
know.
big,
That's a big
big
step, yeah.
statement.
That is a good.
So,
So you need to retract your.
I do, I need to retract my statement.
yeah.
I was under the impression she did nothing, but, this is the thing about women,
Yeah.
this is the thing about having, Jackie Spear is a woman, and she does have some great ideas, but you could see the overlapping systems of fraternity that exist in all power structures in our country that shut
Yes.
our voices down.
There's something going on. I mean, there was an attempt on on the part of Anna Eshu and Jackie Spear to get involved. So
Really?
there's
We should
something is
support that.
going on that, that we're not seeing.
Right,
So
right.
But
it's
if-
up to us
if I
now.
could just add
It is
that.
up to
Sure,
the electorate
please
now
do.
to get
What-
rid of this guy.
What they were doing
Here, come on.
was they were, through a letter, which they both wrote great letters, they were just recommending that the Board of Supervisors do open the appointment process.
Oh.
And I was the only guest speaker saying I prefer the election process so that they vote. I didn't want the Board of Supervisors to pick your next sheriff. But they were adamant about open the appointment process. And that's what Don Horsley, Warren Slocum, and Adrian Tissier refused to do.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, as a citizen, this is the thing. As a citizen, not as somebody who's running for office, but as a citizen
Right.
of the United States of America, we are trusting these people to do the right thing.
Right.
So if she has the information, I mean, why isn't she at least giving her constituency, which she has a
Well,
huge following of
if you-
people?
If you think
the
about it,
information.
if you think about it just for a few moments,
Uh-huh.
I think Christina's correct.
What?
This is, someone else in the audience asked the question, well, what about the FBI? They're all in on this.
Okay.
This is not a game. This is not a silly little subject.
Yeah.
How on earth could this possibly be hidden, not talked about for 11 years?
Right.
And I know from how many civilians have actually tried to get documents from the FBI, from Las Vegas Metro. They've left reporters just sitting in the lobby for 4 hours and then blow them off. They don't care. There's nobody to go to. So I agree, Jackie knows stuff, can't say stuff,
Yeah.
because,
I think that, yeah, so.
and so we
So,
the
you know,
people.
you've mentioned Jackie's name many times because she's on the right side of this, but I have to, for every time her name is mentioned, I'm going to mention my name.
Good.
Because I'm the candidate.
Oh, very good, very
Christina.
Right,
Christina.
right. No, good
But,
point.
I think that we now have the opportunity, it's up to us,
Correct.
right?
And
So
you're
we don't have to
responding-
sit here and
you're
ask the
responding as a
question.
mother, and you're responding correctly.
Exactly.
Let's do something
Exactly.
and
Yes.
and talk to the
I
regular
mean,
people. I'll let you guys.
this election is now, we're asking the question, why aren't these other people who are in power doing something?
Right.
It is on the ballot, it is up to us, spread the word. Spread
Spread
the
the
word. I
word.
heard, I saw Mark on the way out, it looked like, I said, what are your chances? He said, it's pretty good, but I mean, we don't know. You never know because he's in,
We
he's
can
running
make it
against
happen,
an
though.
incumbent.
I mean, that's
Let's
the
see if we
exciting
can make it
thing.
happen.
We can make it happen.
So-
You know what I mean? We the people can make this happen through our own personal contacts. Just
Yeah.
like you said, 10 people, just tell
Call
10
10 people.
ask them if they're engaged in it and they understand the emergency situation, that they should also call 10 people. So I think this is going to be successful, and I'm just so glad you're running. And she's a Republican. I didn't even know that.
I'm a fiscal conservative, Lower taxes.
I believe in lower taxes too, or at least using them more properly. I divided the food into, this is an expensive meal and this is sort of an affordable meal.
Did
This
you
is
arrange all
affordable.
of this?
Yeah, I did. This is my art and this is my mother's art. And these foods are all subsidized by the government, and these fruits and vegetables aren't.
Oh, wow.
So that's why it's different, that cheaper food is subsidized. And that's why politics are important. Because if we want fruits and vegetables to be more available, we have to get politicians who will end these subsidies to the flour, soy, and anyway, that's a Green Party thing, I guess.
I took an Uber here instead of driving because I was intimidated. and the lady that drove me, I got her life story, and she was trafficked several times.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I know that she had a very, very difficult childhood, but she had gotten herself into situations where, they would.
It's easy to do, as I
She was
said.
tied up, and she was,
Oh, my goodness.
kept trapped in a hotel room.
Wow.
So it
you
was-
also have a story like that, though, right?
No,
not quite that way.
I was
but
not.
You were.
I was not trafficked. I was a political refugee.
You were a
I was-
political refugee.
Yeah.
From what country?
The Philippines. My family was persecuted. I was probably too too wary of people. I grew up very, very, wary of my small size and, and the dangers involved.
That's right.
So I was very lucky, but it's a very young age because of that. Probably my family is, used to much worse. So
Yes, yes. You're lucky to be here, right?
My father was in prison. I
Oh,
had
man.
relatives that were bombed.
Oh, man.
Under which administration?
Marcos. I was, my grandfather ran for president against Marcos in the last Democratic election, and he became the effective leader of the opposition. And then he was campaigning against him, and 2 grenades were thrown on stage. He was dead for 4 minutes. He left to come to the United States. He stayed near a hospital the rest of his life, and he died in exile. And my father was put in prison. And I had other relatives. My father was escaped from prison. And I ended up coming to the United States because my father was going to escape earlier, like 2 years earlier, and it was foiled, and he escaped. And then they gave us political asylum right away. And
The Philippines unfortunately has a lot of dictators. The present one is a good friend of our president.
well,
He's Republican.
I don't know if they're good friends, but yes, Duterte is a strong man. And so what happened with the Philippines is after Marcos, who was a dictator, really bad, guy, he was overthrown in 1986. You had Cory Aquino come to power, and everybody that was sympathetic to Cory Aquino kind of took over for 30 years. That's what happened. And so my family was also opposed to Marcos and sympathetic to the Aquinos. I met Ninoy Aquino when I was a kid. Ninoy is the person who was assassinated, and that's why his widow took over. You heard of Cory Aquino, right?
No.
Really? Oh God, I thought that she was this.
It was a
she's
woman?
like yes, she is. She was the first female president. She overthrew a dictator. She was
Really?
a demure housewife that just, and the whole family, the whole country rallied around her. It was like this amazing, symbolic.
Does this inspire you?
Oh, she was just my idol.
Oh, wow.
She's passed away, but she
What
is
is
like
her
the,
name again?
she
I
is
have
like
never
the
heard her
greatest.
name.
She is like the greatest export, not the export, but she's
Export
the
of-
greatest
yes.
Figurehead that the Philippines
Oh,
had.
how nice.
Just in
And
my
her name
opinion,
again?
Cory Aquino. So a lot of Filipinos just know her as Cory. You can just say Cory.
Cory.
Cory. So our side is called the Yellows, and so Duterte is a reaction to 30 years of the Yellows.
Kind of like a backlash, like
Kind of like
Trump.
what happened with Trump.
Oh, wow.
So
very interesting.
And then, even from my perspective, these people who had been displaced or issues that weren't being addressed, I didn't even know there were problems. So, and I suppose that happened here too, right?
Yes,
so there
exactly.
were probably people who were
Exactly.
being displaced and issues that weren't being
Well, it
addressed.
seems like as soon as Trump took office, all of a sudden, yes, it was almost like back in the 1950s, the same problems, the same issues were coming up, almost as if it's just from a playlist of some kind,
Like which issues?
People
Well,
were being displaced because of Bush.
The deportation issue, the immigrant issue. We didn't really, I don't know, am I alone? But it didn't seem like to me we had that big of an issue with that. Americans aren't, dying to get rid of all the immigrants. I mean, this just wasn't in our conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. There were I think there was an executive order that was issued under Obama that was favorable towards child refugees or child,
Yeah, the DACA,
and then,
right?
and I don't know if it was DACA or if it was something else, but, okay, so let me just say, I don't know which one it was, but it spurred a lot of people from south of the border to send their kids.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a little bit of a crisis. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a crisis where people were sending minors
Right.
to the United States because they thought they'd get amnesty. So I think that it's terrible that the language that he uses, Obama was so elegant, right?
Right.
He was so classy. And then, and so, and then the language that Trump used was very incendiary and,
Right.
but I think what he was trying to signal was, stop crossing the border and stop sending your kids across the border,
Right.
so.
I had heard that a lot of those children were coming because of the conditions in the
Well, of
countries that they're living in, which has a lot to do with our intervention. The political intervention. creating wars.
During Reagan.
Yes, yeah. It's a big ball of wax, and there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We're ready to do it.
Yes.
This is Morgan Stockner. He's running for supervisor. Okay, I'm gonna get my chart.
Two?
That's
District
what I
two.
think. I don't think
Okay. So, he's gonna take a spot in the brick wall we call the Board of Supervisors. And he was roped into this job by his father,
But we can, like I was saying.
Michael, what's
Yes.
his name? Michael Stockner?
Michael.
Who
And I don't think it's gonna happen.
started a online news program called SanMateoCountyNews.com. And he roped you into this job. How did you do
He told
that?
me about it, and I looked into the job, and you can't really find anything about the job anywhere, and so I figured I qualified.
That's right.
And I started watching the board meetings. They air them Friday nights on channel 26 from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And you can just watch what the board does. I actually found a piece of paper that says their main responsibility is hiring the county manager and then approving the budget that the county manager does.
Those are very important things.
Yeah, and they all vote unanimously on
Right.
everything. So
All the time.
yeah, it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
They just don't seem to ever listen to any citizens who complain about things.
Exactly.
The first part of the meeting is like a half-hour open forum for citizens to come up, make statements, and they never get any acknowledgement or feedback.
Or anything done for that matter.
Yeah, one lady's been coming for 10 years and complaining about the same thing.
Yeah.
And they don't ever take time to interview her one-on-one
Right,
or
no,
find out
no.
what's going on.
No.
Then there's been several bigger issues that have come up that I think are strange for them to take no stance on.
That's right, like the housing issue. The housing issue is one of the major issues facing people in San Mateo County right now. It's the highest housing market, price-wise, in the country, believe it or not. And people are homeless because of it. And they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure the Board of Supervisors is the group that's supposed to tackle real
Okay,
estate and
okay.
housing. But there are some supervisors that are trying to add low-income housing, and it seems like most people make too much money to be low-income, but are
Right.
still poor.
That's right.
And so it's like they don't qualify
Right.
for that housing.
Right.
I don't know, it just seems like there's been some issues with different committees, and there's been complaints against elected officials, and
Like this in particular, this,
this sheriff, I think the Harborside district had an issue come up.
what was the Harborside issue?
There was a sexual harassment
Oh,
claim with Sabrina Brennan against Tom Maddish.
Really?
Yeah.
A woman against the, like,
I
the
guess
woman was being harassed?
I guess the man sent her emails with some pornographic images.
Oh.
And they just found out that was wrong, but not sexual harassment. And
And is not getting in trouble for it?
no, he's just told
Harbor master.
told not
Now
to.
that's a job.
They're still both on the same committee. So I don't know. I was just looking at the charter that they have, and it says they can remove or they can give some kind of input on different things, but they seem to stay neutral, and
That's right. They basically don't do anything.
they passed the budget, and that's good, but
Yeah.
anyone can do that, and they hire a guy to specialize in the budget.
Right, right.
So he pretty much does everything, they
That's
just
right.
say
Oh.
yes or no.
That's me.
Um,
You can figure it
But the
out.
problems where citizens
Thank you.
are complaining,
That's
they
right.
just ignore them
That's
on
right.
those issues.
Yeah.
So I think more people who are willing to stand up against people are
Right.
needed. on the
Right.
board.
Definitely. In every orifice of our government, actually. I just wanted to draw the conclusion that we're here to talk about the Carlos Bolanos issue. Carlos Bolanos is the sheriff who was caught in an FBI sting in 2007, and he actually was the undersheriff at the time. Nothing has been done about this issue, and now he's running for re-election, and the story is starting to get out, but mainstream media won't cover it. And the supervisor who appointed Carlos Bolanos is up for re-election. This fellow is not running for that particular spot, but he would be a second on the Board of Supervisors, which would provide us with some people who will listen to the people, basically.
Hi, San Mateo County. My name is Michael Stogner. I'm co-owner of SanMateoCountyNews.com. The easiest way to find us is at www.sanmateocountynews.com. The reason I started this website was the fact that I didn't believe the news media in San Mateo County were actually doing the proper amount of stories on serious subject matters. And in this day and age of fake news, I think you also have to include withheld news. So today, I just want to show you a story I'm writing today, and I produced it today, and I want to tell you why and how we got here. So I want to just give you a little background. So today I've got a story entitled Appointed Sheriff Carlos Bolanos Being Inside the Illegal Brothel as a Customer is Old News. Now that happens to be a story of a friend of mine. His name is Mark DePaula. He has spent many years and time and money going to Las Vegas, going to the FBI, going to the Las Vegas Metro Police to just find out the truth of what actually happened during Operation Dollhouse and our two top sheriffs. What I can tell you is that from April 24th, 2007, so just 3 days after this incident, I personally was informed by two separate news agencies because I went searching for it. So I was able to find out that the Palo Alto Online story and the Las Vegas Review on that day, both separately and with separate different law officers from the Las Vegas Metro Police, both put Carlos Bolanos inside the single-family residence. And what San Mateo County residents, almost 800,000 of us, read in our local businesses that pretend like they're newspapers, not one of them told that story. They didn't tell that truth. So even now, if you think back, you'll have to ask yourself, well, what did I remember? Or what did I hear about that? And what you'll hear about is a completely, I call it like a teenage story. So it's kind of like if your teenager stole your car and went out and got drunk and got caught and came home and would tell just this bizarre story of what happened. Well, what happened, the reality is, our two top sheriff officials, the leaders of a 800-person agency, both went inside an illegal brothel as customers. That's the truth. So I hope you find this information useful, and it's accurate, and it's honest. So tell your friends about our website, and thank you for your interest.